Right, we're joined now by the chairman of the Lagos State, well, he's actually not the chairman, he's executive secretary, Security Trust Fund, Razaq Balogun. And at our overflow studio is lawyer and Arise analyst Frank Tietie. It's so good to have both of you gentlemen join us tonight on Newsnight. Let me start with you, Razaq Balogun. I mean, there's no better person, to fall back on what needs to be done to tackle insecurity. You've been, I mean, you're the, just like we said, the executive secretary of Lagos State Security Trust Fund. Help us understand how your experience and what you've seen in Lagos State can actually be replicated in, in other parts of the country. Balogun.
Yes, we have to look at it from the historical perspective. I mean, this trust fund was created in 2007 and was as a result of the total insecurity and the chaos in Lagos State at that time. And the governor at that time felt that for us to have a prosperous Lagos and for businesses to thrive, it was important that we created this organization born out of up to 3 months or 4 months of deliberations before it was inaugurated. And we found out that it was their inefficiency was due to the fact that the Nigerian police force in particular were under-resourced, they were ill-motivated, they lacked equipment, they lacked all the wherewithal to carry out their responsibilities. So at that time, we created this trust fund by legislation. It was not just by fiat or by executive order, it was by legislation since 2007. And the whole idea was to bring in the private sector, which as it stands today makes up 80% of the board of trustees of the fund. And the whole idea was for them to use their clout and their connections to raise resources in order for us to support and intervene into different security agencies in Lagos State. And at that time, people came on board then because it was, like I said, it was very chaotic. And we formed that structure. People started donating. It was by voluntary donations because a lot of organizations and establishments are located in Lagos. So they created that, and at that time, the Board of Trustees was headed by a chairman and about 8 members of the board and an executive secretary. And what's most instructive about this trust fund is that it is very, very independent of the states.
Right.
The state governor, successive state governors have just been supporting the trust fund. They have really never interfered in the affairs of the trust. And that's why we're able to carry out our responsibilities and our mandate to the letter. What we do is, sit with these agencies. They'll tell us their needs. They'll write their requests to us. We'll sit down with them. We'll look at the areas of needs. There's no way we can meet all their demands, but we focused on interventions that would prevent violent crimes in Lagos State. And since inception to the date, 17 years after, the trust fund has succeeded in its mandate. We have continued to go stronger. We have continued to be a model for the rest of Nigeria because, like I said, we are totally accountable to our donors. We render our accounts. We do a town hall meeting every year where we render our stewardship. The governor is the chief host, and also the chief the person that goes around sourcing for resources and all that from private sector. So it's been a very successful model because, like I said, we're very transparent in our activities, and we also ensure that it's not only supplying these equipment, we ensure that we maintain them, and we also render trainings.
Which is very important.
And all that.
We'll come back to you, Razaq. Good thing that you have to share this success story with us. Some of us have been privileged to be in that town hall meeting. Frank, you've heard Razaq. We're trying to see how we can replicate some of the successes we've gotten from other places in the country, in this case, Lagos State. And he said something about equipping our security agencies, in this case, the first responders, the Nigerian police. Speak to us on how best you think some of these key highlights and some of what you and your group are working on can be done here in the FCT and some other places around the country.
Thank you. Well, I commend that initiative. It's one of those ways that responds to the idea where those who run government always want to outsource the responsibilities of government to private sector. They like the political power, the political office, the perks, and all the privileges, but when it comes to the real hard work, they call on development partners, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, and private sector to donate money. But that is irresponsible, I must say, with all utmost respect. That mental attitude must change, where, and even the private sector persons who pay their taxes, instead of going around gathering money to give to government people to spend or to buy equipment for government, they should first ask questions about the budgetary allocations. Government is responsible for raising money and for appropriating that money in areas of need. If government keeps outsourcing its responsibility, then it probably should outsource all of that things like lawmaking and outsource governorship and presidential powers too, so that we know that private sector is running the country. However, it underscores the point that, yes, money is needed. The response that we have just listened to, that has been the historical success in Lagos State, should be, as a matter of course, be replicated only if it is necessary. But over time, we have had a police act that has just been, reenacted. The expectation is that with all of those ideas like community policing that were now codified and given statutory flavor by the Police Act should have actually been given serious attention, to the extent that it will solve the issue of funding and then reduce this grave insecurity that is actually bedeviling Nigeria now as a very dark cloud. I think that we are not, the police service, particularly crime-fighting organizations, have not been accountable enough in this country. Certainly not accountable. Look at, first, I was hugely disappointed when those numbers were being mentioned, those full numbers, mouthful numbers. But if it is about buying music on one of these service providers, if you like this music, send 2 to 220. It's short codes. But when it comes to security, you say we should memorize 0800 and this, that. You flash those numbers on international TV. There's no sense of seriousness and responsibility and accountability on the part of police service at all. Look at what has been happening in the FCT. The threats of kidnapping. No, I want to say threats. The clear and present danger of kidnapping in all parts of the FCT. And what we get is a very silent Inspector General of Police, a silent Commissioner of Police. We don't have a situation room that sits down to address these issues. So we think that throwing money at problems is a solution. Not necessarily so. There has to be some measure of commitment before asking us as members of the private sector to raise money. That's not responsible.
Frank Tietie, you can believe that Razaq Balogun is actually, he's not here to, ask the private sector to bring money for any trust fund, whether Lagos or any other one.
Well, that's what they did. That's what they did in Lagos.
It's to help us understand what they've been able to do in Lagos. Like they say, look, security is really not the business of government or the security agencies alone. Balogun, let me ask you, the issue of police, for example, this is for the police, right? When you have collected all of these funds, what exactly are the expectations from the police? And are you looking into this call made by every Inspector General of Police over the years, including the present one, when it says, look, we're withdrawing police from VIPs and what have you? A lot of them use MOPOs instead of the special protection units. That's meant, is that where it really should start from, beyond, pulling funds from the public?
I think I beg to disagree with the gentleman that just spoke now, because if you understand the enormity of the situation of our country, then you would understand that there's no way any government, anywhere in the world, can finance security alone. All over the world, there are so many ways they raise money for social services. It just may not be too obvious for you to see or to notice that. Go to any hotel in the world, you're paying some services, some tokens for some services. So coming back to issues of the police and all that, what we say is that, or what we see, if you look at the population of Nigeria today, is 226 million people. It's not 200 million people, according to Worldometer. And what you find is that you have maybe about 350, 400,000 police officers, about maybe 150,000 of them guarding private citizens and all that. This cannot work. And a lot of them not into police services, maybe in the offices and all that. What's most important is that we must continue to recruit more people who love the job. A lot of people take on the job out of necessity, out of the fact that they can't get jobs. And then we must resource and fund our police officers. You cannot ask somebody to combat crime bare-chested. It's not done anywhere in the world. Our police officers have been demeaned in this country. And that's why we have to change this mindset of saying, oh, the private sector, they're abdicating their responsibility and all that. Because at the end of the day, when a country is safe, as it is in Lagos, Lagos, I must say, we're not there yet completely, but Lagos is pretty much safe. I mean, we just finished the Yuletide and the Christmas season. Look at the amount of activities that went on in Lagos. And nothing significant happened. There are people working behind the scene. I always liken the Lagos Security Trust Fund to newscasters that you see on TV, but the people writing the news and controlling, you don't see them. So this is the whole effort of a progressive government. A government that realizes that for a state to be prosperous, you must fund security agencies. And I feel that in the FCT must also have a special purpose vehicle. You cannot want to fund the police or the security and be going to the bureaucracy to source for money and telling you that in the finance sector there's no money today. No. In Lagos State, this is a special purpose vehicle that is funded, and so that whatever the needs are, according to their needs and what we can afford, we quickly intervene within 24 hours.
And that's the whole essence while we're here, gentlemen. And for those who do not live in Lagos, should also understand that there's a short code in Lagos that works. Many of us have tried it, 767
and 112.
And 112.
Yeah,
I had
digits.
tried it. You don't need credit to be on your phone. And we're hoping that the Lagos example can be replicated here in the FCT and so many other states.
Of the country.
So I'd like to thank you, gentlemen. Razaq Balogun, Executive Secretary, Lagos State Security Trust Fund, and Frank Tietie, lawyer and Arise News analyst.